Call from Within started development in August 2022 as another personal project of mine. At first, I didn't want the game to be something really big, and I started making it out as a passion project as a way to continue improving my development skills. Starting out as another small game, I didn't actually expect the development to last as long as a year and a half, and the support I've been getting these past few months has been immense, to the point where I don't even know how to thank you. I'm Dorsal, Call from Within's developer, and this is going to be the first of some videos where I'll make some developer commentary on specific scenes. These videos are going to cover the entirety of the game, talking about general development aspects as well as more specific subjects like coding, texturing, sound effects, music, and others. In this video, I'll cover scenes 1 and 2, since they're relatively short and both of them are kinda interesting on their own. With that, starting with scene 1, it starts with a simple recreation of the street you're currently seeing on screen. This was the first time I actually used a real reference to design a map, and while there's no particular reason for why I chose that place specifically, the subway being there helped me decide whether I should make the subway one of the main areas. Here's how the first scene looks in the editor, and as you can see, it's relatively simple, with just a map mesh and a few models to decorate. This scene only includes the street and the subway entrance, as the elevator is already another separate scene. On screen, you're seeing the actual model for the map. All the maps from the first few scenes were made in Blender, and later in development I changed to another software called Trench Room, as I found it to be better for the type of maps I had to model. The game is divided into two sections, the subway section and the fourth one, with the latter having more scenes and being overall longer. And while I labeled the first 7 scenes as the subway section, as the game progresses the maps turn into something that doesn't resemble the subway at all, but is still on the same scenario in a way. The connection is visible in a later scene, which I'll talk about in another video. Categorizing scenes like this also helped me imagine what kind of scenes I could create and how to properly decorate them. Right after modeling it, I just decided to make the ambient lighting completely dark. As the map mesh was so simple, it took away a bit of the atmosphere if you could see it in its entirety. Seeing it right now, you can see that the geometry is very simple, and most of the detail comes from the textures made from real photos. At this point, my renders was extremely simple, with no decorations whatsoever and overall being really plain. And this can also be seen in the first scenes of Call from Within. However, coming from my first game, which was extremely simple, I believe there's been a huge jump in quality. Of course, this is something I kept improving along development, and you can also see that with the graphical style the game is based in. All the props in the subway are based on real ones, and most of the textures are just photos of the real counterparts. By the way, this fucking escalator was the most annoying fucker to look at, like, holy shit, like, for some reason. Textures are going to be a core subject in a lot of these videos, as I believe they define the graphical style I'm going for with my games. I'll talk more about textures in other videos, mostly because there's a specific scene from which they get a lot more interesting, and I think that part is basically a turning point when it comes to the graphics. Even before I started doing the map, I already had some stuff semi-implemented, like the inventory, which only worked for some items when I first started doing it. I didn't know that much about coding, and so my code is basically just nonsense. I kept on the system until I had to add supplies. Since they can be stacked, I needed another check to prevent multiple supplies of the same type to show up as different items in the inventory. So I added this new mechanic later on in the game. For now, the inventory wasn't that relevant, and I just needed it for the subway ticket thing. After that, the inventory is not necessary until scene 3. Regarding the initial cutscene, it was actually made just a few weeks before the release. All the story bits and animations were left for the end, and so basically all of the animations and voice lines were made in late December. This also applies to the music that you can hear in the game, not the ambience tracks, but the 3 songs that play in the beginning, middle, and ending of the game. The ones at the beginning and in the end were made and recorded by me, and I also did them on late December because I didn't plan to make a song on those parts. And the song that plays right after the subway was composed by Nicolas Graver, a friend of mine who also voices Simon in the game. The music that's currently playing in the background was actually going to be in the game, but I ended up discarding it as it sounded a bit weird coming from the other song. Before making the songs, I actually wanted them to have the same chord progression, that is, making them both have the same melody and stuff like that. But when I came up with the song for the ending, I thought it would hit harder if it was a completely new song. So one afternoon I was just messing around with the guitar and I came up with the song for the beginning, which doesn't sound that bad. Regarding the break or starting in the background, the idea was making it play from inside the door Jade closes in the cutscene, but upon trying it didn't work out that much. The slower pace of the cutscene song didn't match well with the break or drums of this one, so I just discarded it. In this scene, when using the subway to get from the inventory, there's a raycast which checks for a turnstile. If the raycast detects it, then the inventory is closed and the player is moved right in front of the turnstile, so then it can go to the elevators. Another detail is that Jade doesn't actually have a face, and that's not because I wanted to make him mysterious or anything, it's just that I couldn't add the face texture without making it look awful. So I just ended up not giving him a face, as this was way better than just badly leaving a face texture there. Here's Jade full model, which even if it took me a while to model, it's kinda simple. Still, due to bad topology and messy modeling, the rig doesn't work that well when moving bones a certain way, so sometimes I just had to adjust camera angles the right way to avoid showing bug match parts. Now with scene 1 covered, I'll talk about the development of scene 2, which will be much shorter since it's just a map and a few more things. Although not being part of scene 2, the elevator is actually a separate scene, so I might as well just cover it. To make it simple, the scroll was just made by animating its texture offset of a cube that surrounds the elevator to make it look like it's going up or down. In theory, this is pretty simple, but for some reason when I made this I just decided to code every single interaction inside of a separate script instead of, for instance, the raycast script. To this day I'm afraid to change any line of code there because it's extremely messy and checking everything would be something I wouldn't want to go through again. Aside from that, the elevator is also based on a real elevator from that same subway, so all the textures come from there. That would cover the elevator, and with that, scene 2 is pretty simple. I started with the subway platform, which is, again, based on a real location, and these textures are also directly taken from the original place. Still, if I had to redo this scene, I would have probably made it a bit more complex map-wise, as it is really simple and doesn't feel that realistic. After this, through the platform itself you can find a bug screen, which needs to be inspected in order to continue the game. Since it's a 3D plane with an animated image, I had to use a spreadsheet with all the different values that can appear, and then looped it. At the beginning, when I didn't know about spreadsheets and all that, I just created a texture which showed that the next train was coming in 5,000 hours, and kinda late in development I noticed that that was a bit weird and honestly kinda dull. So I just changed it to the animated screen that you can find in the final game. Another thing is that I made the side elevator stop working, mostly because setting up different starting positions according to the elevator that you picked was kinda long to implement, especially with the system I already had implemented. Aside from that, there wasn't any significant change, and map-wise, this scene has stayed like this from the beginning. The only thing worth mentioning is that the map doesn't go up further from where the fog starts. The real place is actually taller, but I thought that adding fog there would be nice as to make the lightning a bit less dull. When I was making this scene, I actually wanted the player to go through this kind of platforms at some point. But I eventually discarded this idea because I already had better ideas for portable maps, and also because it would be a bit weird going through that part of the subway again, since scene 2 is just a few minutes away from the beginning of the game. With scene 1 and 2 covered, I would like to thank you again for your support during the later stages of development. Honestly, if it weren't for you, I would have probably taken a lot more time due to burnout and similar things, but your comments have honestly been extremely inspiring. If you like these developer commentary videos, just let me know and I'll make more. Though I'll take some more time to do the next one since they take a lot of time, and I would like to use that time to actually develop the games.